Praise you, O Lord.
In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a town in Galilee called Nazareth, to a virgin engaged to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. The virgin's name was Mary. And he came to her and said, "Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you." But she was much perplexed by his words and pondered what sort of greeting this might be. The angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And now you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you will name him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give to him the throne of his ancestor David. He will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end." Mary said to the angel, "How can this be, since I am a virgin?" The angel said to her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, the child to be born will be holy. He will be called Son of God. And now your relative Elizabeth, in her old age, has also conceived a son, and this is the 6th month for her, who is said to be barren. For nothing will be impossible with God." Then Mary said, "Here am I, the servant of the Lord. Let it be with me according to your word." Then the angel departed from her. Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ. It was in October of 2011 when Kristen and I decided it was time to grow our family. And so we tried for a couple months. I think we went through about mid-December, and then we stopped to think about it, and we realized, it was my final year of seminary, and I was about to be shipped off to who knows where in the country for my first call. And maybe this wasn't really a good time to bring a child into our family. And so we then decided, okay, we'll take a break and maybe try some other time. So, Christmas came and went, and we had an enjoyable, wonderful time with visiting family and friends, and we came back, and I started my J term at seminary, the January term. Kristen got back into her office, and we also decided that, you know what, it would be lots of fun before I start this whole pastor thing to go to Disney World and have one last hurrah vacation. And so Kristen and I, we booked our vacation in early January to go in February during spring break, and we were excited for that, and we were ready for me to graduate, for me to move on to my first call, and for us to get established, and then worry about having a child. Well, it was a cold January morning, and I had just finished my J-term class, and of course I was super hungry because it was around lunchtime, and so I came home and made myself some lunch, and I sat down in my little man room. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, but the second bedroom was too small to really be a bedroom, so I kind of turned it into my man cave. I sat down and turned on the TV, was going to get caught up on what was happening in the sports world, and then Kristen comes home, and she comes to the doorway of the room, and she looks at me and goes, I might be pregnant. And the next thing I know, the phone rings. she answers it and goes, "Oh, hi, Adrian," Adrian being her sister, and she walks off, talking to her sister while I'm sitting there going, what? Kristen told me the reason she answered her phone was because she felt just as awkward as I did. So once she got enough sense to get off the phone with her sister, she came back and we talked about the fact that she took the pregnancy test and it came out positive. And a few days later, after visiting the doctor confirmed that yes, my wife was pregnant. Our first response, of course, was one of not only surprise, but excitement. We're going to have a baby. We're going to have a little baby. And boys, it's going to be exciting. Oh my goodness, it's going to change our lives. And oh my goodness, it's going to change our lives, was the reaction that came afterwards. And all of a sudden, the joy and euphoria we felt turned into a little bit of panic and worry. What are we going to do? We've never had a child before. How are we supposed to take care of this child? How are we supposed to get through the pregnancy? What do we need to buy? Somebody help us, please. I should have her out here helping me with the sermon. Thankfully, we had parents who had been parents before, who gave us guidance, and the doctors, of course, also gave us guidance and told us everything that we should and shouldn't do. And although it was chaotic, we got through it. Even as my wife was very pregnant on her move, we got through it. Even as I started as a pastor, with my wife being due in just a month and a half, we got through it. And in September 21st of 2012, our daughter Catherine was born. And as you can clearly see, she is 5 years old and still healthy and still causing a lot of chaos in our lives. I'm sure that Mary's first response after the angel Gabriel departed from her was one of that same euphoria that my wife and I felt when we first received the news that we were going to have a baby. Mary was going to have a baby. In her day and age, many women found their worth in their ability to bear and have children. And not only was she going to have a baby, she was going to have the baby, a holy baby, God's own son. There's a funny cartoon that's been circling around social media these last few weeks. In the cartoon, there are three families riding on donkeys. From our perspective, you can only see the rear of the donkey, and on the rear of each donkey is one of those proud parent bumper stickers. The first one says, "Our son is an honor student." The second says, "Our son is in medical school." And the third one says, "Our son is God." That must have been the kind of pride that Mary felt after the angel departed from her. But then I wondered if she began to feel unsettled, perhaps even worried. The Gospel of Luke doesn't tell us, but can you imagine being a teenage girl and being told that you're going to be pregnant? Sure, Mary didn't have to worry about finishing high school or going off to college, but she did have to face the reality that no one would believe her. And that would be a threat to her life. Mary wasn't married yet. Would her betrothed, her beloved Joseph, believe her? Would her parents believe her? After all, she was still living at home at this point. And what would the community think? If no one believed her, then they would most likely accuse her of adultery, and her penalty would consist of either being stoned to death or being burned to death. Plus, she was only a teenager. What if she didn't survive the pregnancy? Who would care for her son then? And what would it mean to care for God's son? Were there extra special instructions that she would have to follow? Would God smite her if she made a mistake? And yet, in spite of all her worries and concerns, in spite of the overwhelming feelings of now being the primary caretaker of God's Son, Mary still trusted in God. After all, as we heard in the psalmody sung this morning by David, after the angel Gabriel's departure, Mary's joyful response, the Magnificat, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Savior." How could Mary have such a faithful response in the midst of so much uncertainty about what her future would hold? Well, the answer, in my opinion, was that Gabriel promised that the Holy Spirit would come upon Mary. And it would come upon her not only to make her conceive God's Son, but it would also build up her trust that God would be with her, that God would walk with her and guide her, that God would not let any harm come to her. Mary knew through the gift of the Holy Spirit that not only was she carrying God's precious Son, but that she was also precious to God, for she too was God's beloved. And through that Holy Spirit, Mary recognized that God was about to do something new, something wonderful, something that would transform the world for the better. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. Mary recognized that this child would be the way God would bring about the kingdom, how God would fulfill that covenant promise. And so Mary responded faithfully, knowing that the Holy Spirit would continue to help her to see the grace and love of God as her womb continued to develop the Word made flesh. And I'm sure there were days where Mary had her doubts and uncertainty, days where she was in a lot of pain, or days when it felt like she just wanted the child to come out. But even in her worst moments, those moments when she probably wished the angel Gabriel had appeared to someone else, the Holy Spirit still rested upon her, revealing to her God's love and grace, which reminded her that it is all worth it, for it would be the means in which God would transform the world. Here on this fourth Sunday of Advent, we give thanks for Mary's story, for her courage and her faithfulness. She reminds us that while bearing the Word is difficult and challenging, it is worth it because it does indeed transform the world. It brings joy because it is the beginning of something new. It is a reminder that the old world is dying and the new world is being born into existence. Of course, for Mary, this physical birth was a one-time deal. However, because the Word was born through Mary, our world experiences new birth each and every day. That is the new birth of God's commonwealth, one that is grounded in love and grace, one that wipes out sin and death, one that brings peace instead of war, compassion instead of hate, relationship instead of division. And through the gift of baptism, we too have been given this same gift of the Holy Spirit. And like Mary, the Holy Spirit rests upon us and helps us to remain faithful in times of uncertainty, because it continually reminds us of God's love and grace, experienced through forgiveness, experienced through word and sacrament, but also experienced in the world through various different actions that we see each and every day, through a family of volunteers who spend Christmas Day serving food to the homeless at a soup kitchen, or when a family decides to give the gift of a cow to a foreign farmer in need through the EOCA Good Gifts, or when you see someone help an elderly person put groceries in their car, or when you witness a volunteer go and visit patients in the hospital to make sure they are not alone on Christmas, or even when we simply pray for others, with others for someone in need. All of these experiences, plus many more, point us to the reality that God is continually birthing a new world through this Word made flesh. But here's something else to consider. Because we have been given this gift of the Holy Spirit, and because through the death and resurrection the Word made flesh now abides in us, we too, like Mary, are caretakers of this Word. Sure, we don't give physical birth to the Word, but we have been entrusted as the church to bring this Word into the world, to give it new life through our proclamation of the good news. Even though we live in uncertain times where worries are high and our future looks bleak, the Holy Spirit reminds us that good news is born each and every day. That this good news spreads in the world, and that the world is transformed by it. And the Holy Spirit reminds us that because we have this good news abiding in us always, we are free to give birth to the good news each and every day through our words and our actions that proclaim the love of God. For God's love has indeed come down. And it will continually come down each and every day. And it will come down to transform the world. It has come down because Mary was faithful. It has come down because the Word was made flesh. It has come down because the Word proclaimed to us the kingdom. It has come down because the Word endured the cross. It has come down because the Word was raised 3 days later. It has come down because we have been baptized into it, and it abides in us. And it comes down because we go out and spread the good news that Christ Emmanuel, God with us, is indeed here and now. And that means God's love is here and now, born to a suffering world to bring transformation.